Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Two Doors podcast. I am here with Suesi Tran. Suesi is a Google developer expert in Dart and Flutter, GDG organizer at GDG Melbourne, and Woman Techmaker Melbourne Ambassador. She has more than 17 years of experience in mobile development and started Flutter development in 2017. Suesi recently founded Nartus, a company with a mission to preserve cherished memories through the power of digital diaries. The final goal is for everyone to tell their own story in their own voice. Suesi, welcome to the show.
Thank you. That's very great. Thank you so much.
It's great to be here, and I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation the other day, and just talking about some. I'm really excited for this episode because I think you've got a lot of value to add to many people out there. So, yeah, tell us a bit more about Nartus and what you've been up to there.
So Nartus is a very young company founded in 2019 in Melbourne, Australia. And currently the mission of Nartus is to help people to reserve their memory, especially with people with a lot of stress that can cause memory loss or sickness. So the first product of Nartus is Me. That is a digital diary app that it will help to reserve your memory and help you to access your memory later if you ever forget something. So you don't need to say, oops, sorry, I forgot anymore.
I love that. And especially, like, obviously, outsourcing our mind capacity can be quite useful. Like, I've seen deterioration with Alzheimer's and all sorts going on. I think it's a very powerful app, and you showed it to me, and I was like, I love the UI, I love the user experience, and so you're a Google expert in terms of mobile as well.
Yes, I am.
I love that. And so how did you, I mean, you've been doing mobile for 17 years now, so you must have seen quite a big shift.
Yes. So I started mobile development back in 2009 in Japan, and at that time Android was very new, and I started as Android embedded engineer at that time. I still remember at that time we always have problem with memory constraints. On the mobile, it's not as powerful as the laptop or computer. So memory leak is one of the biggest problem at that time. And all the time that we write anything at all, we have to worry about memory leak. Nowadays, when we talk about memory leak, people usually ask, "Who care? The phone is so powerful." Then I'm like, it's not what I learned.
And what's the future of, like, obviously mobile and platforms? Like, I know you were saying that there's three main platforms these days.
Yes. So, okay, if we look at it from the business point of view, then you will notice that nowadays cross-platform become a thing and quite popular among the business people as well, because it helped to reduce the development time and also reduce the cost. So there are three cross-platform that I know of recent nowadays. Is number one is Flutter, number two is React Native, and number three is Kotlin multi-platform. So Flutter, I am Google developer expert in Dart and Flutter, so of course I love it. React Native, I believe there are users for it, but I don't like it so much. Number one is because it does not it uses the bridge to transcript the TypeScript into the UI native, but then the UI is not actually fully native. So I did not look into how the builder actually work or how the bridge actually work, but by comparing the performance, I think that the performance of React Native is a little bit lower than Flutter, and KMP is on the go, and it will be very good cross-platform, maybe very good rival for Flutter as well. Because right now the disadvantage of KMP is the environment setup for different platform. But once they overcome that, and I'm sure they will, then Flutter may have to look for other advanced to just to win over KMP.
Yeah. And I mean, with Kotlin multi-platform KMP, I've heard of it, some fintech companies utilizing it, but it's actually quite hard to find as a skill set. Like I haven't seen a massive community, but obviously with Kotlin and that type of language, there is a big backing. So it's great to see. And what does the future of tech look like? Is there going to be new trends? Like obviously we've now got multi-platforms, but yeah, is there anything you predict for the future, Susie?
Actually, the future for tech, recently AI is one of the big things, right? And everybody starts saying AI will replace all the developers. We don't need developers anymore. It's not true yet, I don't see that coming in the next 20 years. So you just think like this, AI will be a big help, and developers who want to stay in the market, to stay relevant, they will need to use AI. But they need to use AI rather than they turn themselves to be dependent on AI. That will be totally different thing. So to use AI to help you and to have to progress your job, that is a very good thing, and that will be trending for the next few years.
And we spoke about this, didn't we? How it's your ability to think about the product and think about the business and think about what you're solving. Because yeah, you can utilize AI, but it won't fully take jobs where you have to build in a sense. Like I predict with lorries and taxis, they can all be automated with sensors and robots, and it's amazing to see where that's all going. But yeah, with software engineering, we're going to still need unique edge cases and the thinking power behind it.
Yes, we will. We still need that. And regardless of how powerful the AI can be, there's one thing that the AI lack is to glue everything together and add the human touch to it. So, for example, in software development, we have architecture in the source code. That is something that the AI currently cannot do yet, because the AI will only generate the source code based on what we want and how we want it to be, but it does not really care of the architecture, and to build the full application from end to end with architecture and with scalability is does not work.
Mm, it's true. And switching gears, I'd love to jump onto another point where because I know that you've worked in 5 different countries, and so you've
Yes.
seen different ways of operating. But yeah, talk us through some of the best leadership, where you've seen it in which country and how they've done, and maybe how we compare currently.
Oh yeah, so the best leadership that I myself experienced is in Japan. So at that time I worked with a boss. I don't have his permission to say his name right now. So, but at that time he was quite young in his career, but he was a team leader, and he really lead by example. Whatever he tell us to practice, he does it himself. And there's one thing that I really love about him is that when we make mistake, he tell us by the number. The first time he say number one, ikai, and then the second time, nikai. So it means that we are allowed to make mistake, but we are not allowed to repeat the mistake.
Mm,
Yeah, and he did it to himself as well. When he make mistake, he asked us what number is that, because he really want to fix it himself, and he really want to not repeat it himself. So when learning from him, we I at that time I was there with another Vietnamese girl, and we really learned that a mistake should be forgivable if it's truly a mistake, but if it's repeated, it's not a mistake anymore, and that should be punished.
mm. So it was leading by example, letting you to make mistakes, but keeping you accountable to learn and progress.
Yes.
That's brilliant. And how does Australia compare? So out of all 5, where are we? No?
Okay, now I tell you the worst leadership I experienced is in Australia.
Mm,
Yeah. So number one is that communication is unclear. All the requirements are given by verbal communication, and there's no meeting minute or documentation to note down and everyone agree on. So when conflict happen, when issues happen, most of the conversation will goes like, oh, that day you said like this, and or that day I remember this, something like that, and we ask where's the document. No document. The simple document like meeting minutes after the meeting, there's none. And then the requirement is given by saying something work as expected, and different people have different idea of expected.
True.
So conflict happen quite a lot, and it's quite stressful.
And do you think that comes down to the stigma in society of like, because obviously I'm an immigrant to this country as well, and we'll get
Yeah.
onto some other points. But like what I found is that Australians are very relaxed. It's a lot of she'll be all right. So it's kind of that accountability or documentation, it's not there because people are just a lot more relaxed. Do you think it's in the society it comes from?
Yeah, actually that is something I noticed as well, but then it is different. It's different person to person. So I've been working in Australia for two different clients now, and work in two different environment. So one of the environment is really good and everything is proper. And documentation, even though there's no such thing called meeting minute formally written down, but on the on the note on the discussion are note down into the user story, and then we always have one, at least one document to be the source of truth, and we can refer to that anytime. So even though it is still a laid back and it's still relaxed exercise, but then we always can progress, and we always have something to refer to when we have conflict.
Yes, I agree. That source of truth. And
Yeah.
I'd love to get onto a great point with you because obviously you came over here and didn't have any Australian experience. And I find this a lot with certain candidates, they come from overseas. So, yeah, what would you recommend anybody to who's out there who's come over, they don't have any Australian experience and but they've got great qualifications and experience overseas?
Yeah. So there's one thing I noticed in Australia is that Australia used to be very close up country. So everything happened within Australia. That is why the term local experience become a thing with the hiring manager. But nowadays, it's not the case anymore, because Australia will sooner or later will still need to open doors for the whole world to come in. You see, and also introduce Australia to the open world. So, as a migrant and you have experience of the open world out there, why don't you use it to be your advantage instead? Right. You are different. So what? You bring your different and you bring your own good different into the Australian company. Why not? So when I interview for my first job in Australia, I also get turned down a lot, especially when they ask the question like, have you ever worked with Australian company before? Then I'm like, no, never. I got the job at Cognizant with that same questions, but I changed my answer and I answered it differently. Instead of saying no, never, I say that although I did not have any work experience with Australian company before, I have great experience working in different countries with different culture, both on site or remote. So I'm confident that I'm very fast to adapt to any culture, and I promise I can bring the good exercise, the good practice from other culture into Australian culture and improve it. Yeah, I was nervous at that time, but I think I passed that question. I think so. That's how I got my first job.
And that's powerful, Susie. So just reframing the answer rather than it being a no. You're talking about how it's transferable, that you do have experience with other countries, working with other cultures, and then backing up, because you told me it's about having a disadvantage as an advantage. And I was like, wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, that is one of the practice that I learned from one of the book I read during that time. The book name is Failure is Not an Option. It's given by the boss in the company I work for in Singapore.
Yeah, that's huge, because failure, I think, is just a mindset.
Yeah.
It's where you quit, and quitting is a habit. Whereas if you just see it as an opportunity to progress or learn, then there's lessons in that. Like in every part of adversity, there's always a lesson that you can learn. And that's why I love like what you've been through of, your Japanese leader of saying, number one, but then number two, it's like, okay, I'm on a warning here, so we better learn from this.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's brilliant. And would you, yeah, I would love to get your thoughts on any wisdom that you'd love to share, because you're a high achiever, Susie. Like you're somebody that Google chooses to fly over to give talks in America and like be on their conferences. You've obviously contributed a lot. You've worked in this domain, but you don't just overnight accidentally become Susie Tran, right? So yeah, what wisdom would you love to give to the younger people, or people who are out there trying to just progress?
Yeah. So bef- before I answer that question, I have to tell you that I have to share this with you that I used to be a failure. Okay. At the age 19 in Vietnam, at that time, we still have university exam. And if you fail that exam, the door to university totally closed. So you will have to go to college. College is lower than university. So people graduated from college will have lower chance of a good career compared to people from university. And at the age 18, I failed the exam. I did not even pass the college bar, and I totally failed 100%. Okay. At that time, I already set my mind on software development, and I wanted to be a programmer, a software developer since that time. And everybody at that time told me that software, you just think like this, the software engineering level is this level, this high. And for me, someone who failed all the university exam and all the college exam, my level is out of the screen. Yes, and people told me no, it's not for me. It's too high for me. So during that time, I was out of touch for 2 years doing other job, a little bit of job, try to study just to get into university exam again and fail again 2 times in total. So my mom wanted to send me overseas to study. And at that time, even the the person who helped me to choose the career, the counselor, also told me that she really believed I should choose an easier career path. But I stick on what I want because at that time one of my mom's friend told me your job is your life. You don't spend 8 hours per day to earn money. You spend 8 hours per day to do what you love. So stick on what you love. And at that time I love software engineering. So I stick to that no matter what. And I tell you, during the 4 years university in university in Malaysia, it was not easy at all. So language was one of the problem. I had to learn English, and at that time, even though I can speak English, people cannot understand me. Number one, and then number two is that all the ideas of software engineering that I thought I know was not applicable, and I have to learn everything again by myself, and with the help of classmates, schoolmates, and other professors, but it was really not easy. So I remember that I had joy, I had fun, but most of the time people want to find me, they go to library, they search for me in library. Library open from 9 a.m. and close at 5 p.m. So they can find me in library 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. After library, they can go to the public study ground. I stay in hostel, so there are public study ground. Sit there, study until 9 or 10 p.m. And then when the study ground closed, all the light turn off, I go back to my room and I still try to read something on the computer in a room. So during that time, everybody asked me if I really want to do so much just to be something that I'm not suitable to be. Then I was like, that's what I like. I like doing it. So some advice to anyone who want to start their career or just want to do anything at all. Do what you like. You really have only one life to live. So why waste it on earning something that you don't really enjoy? Because you are not going to relive your life again. So just do what you like and follow it up. Make sure you like something good.
Wow, that is a powerful story, Susie. And thank you very much for sharing. I picked up there that you're very strong with your mindset, with your work habit as well, but also knowing that you're going in the right direction because that's something that you love.
Yes. Actually, I'm really grateful for my mom at that time for not forcing me to choose another career.
And I'm glad that she didn't, because I'm glad Australia has you now. So it's brilliant. Wow. This is powerful. This is inspiring. And any last thoughts or any last comments, Susie?
So okay, after graduating, I don't become GDE immediately right after that. So
Mm.
there were a lot of up and down, and there were times that it was really hard to continue being a software engineer. And there was time that I really thought of giving up. You know, go back home, do something that other ladies do, and then get married. Hopefully, that get a good husband and be dependent. But then it was just even harder to give up since you know that you have to give up something you love so much.
Mm.
So if you already choose what you really love and you really feel that you love it, somehow life will make it possible for you to really go to that path.
I agree. And someone said it so well to me the other day that they said it's when you work hard when you're a migrant, it's actually called migrant advantage, that you want
Yeah.
to work harder, improve yourself. So I love that point, Susie. So yeah, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.